This Sunday morning, as I checked my phone, with a steaming cup of tea in my hand, a headline hit me in the face. I was numb with shock and disbelief. What? The news went on to state further horrors. At Poland's Medica border, a man was seen offering help only to women and children. Another man at a refugee camp in Poland was overheard offering work and a room to a 16-year-old girl before he was intervened by the authorities. Police in Berlin are actively warning women and children to refuse offers of overnight stays and to report if anything they find suspicious. I threw down my phone in anger and disgust. Millions of Ukrainian women and children were separated from the men in their families so that they could stay back to defend their country. And what was their reward for staying back to defend their country? To see their women and children face the indignities of human trafficking. My first appeal is to Mr. Putin. You are not just killing people in Ukraine, but you are also damaging the future of the Russian youth. You are using the Russian taxpayers' money, but not to build wealth for them, rather to destroy Russian economy. All the efforts you've put to revive Russia's past glory will be forgotten, and unfortunately, you will only be remembered as the Hitler of the 21st century. Despite all the wonderful things you did for Russia, you will not just be hated worldwide, but more so by the people of Russia. Because of your actions, they will be ashamed to call themselves Russians in the near future. That's the reality today, Mr. Putin. Do not try and turn a blind eye to the protests happening in your own country. I completely get that you were threatened and provoked by Zelensky's decision to side with NATO. But you could have at least given a warning to the West and to Ukraine of these dire consequences before waging a war. The dharma of righteous war demands the attacker to first sound the war bugle. Do you know, in every Indian wedding and event, your Russian salad is served along with the Indian tikka masala. Now that's the kind of love we have for your culture and for the Russians. So on behalf of 1.4 billion grieving Indians, we would like to make an appeal to you to stop reacting to Ukraine's provocation and rather respond as a true statesman. Rather than continuing to attack Ukraine, you could have sought the active cooperation of the BRICS members to create political pressure against making Ukraine a NATO member. Rather than showing off your military supremacy to subdue Ukraine, you could have used your prudence, your wisdom to win hearts. Recall what the great Indian Emperor Ashoka did when he saw millions of slain bodies in the bloody battlefield of Kalinga. He repented his actions and turned to peace. And that is why he became the torchbearer of non-violence and Buddhism the world over. Even today, centuries after he's gone, he's known as Ashoka the Great because he shed his ego and let the compassion in his heart dictate his political actions. My second appeal is to Mr. Zelensky. You are propagated as a hero in the Western world and especially by America. But wait a minute, sir. What is so heroic about converting a once heavenly nation such as Ukraine with happy people, highly educated people and plenty of natural resources into the living hell that it currently is? So many innocent Ukrainians have lost their life, property, their dreams because of your decision of becoming a puppet to America. Had you reconciled with Russia earlier, so many millions of Ukrainians would not have had to be exploited as refugees, running around with children, seeking shelter from the bombs. I'm sorry to say, sir, but your love for power and position seems to be greater than the love that you have for the people of your land. And all this power for what? A NATO membership with the opportune Western leaders who refuse to take up arms with your soldiers and are watching you being systematically decimated from the sidelines. And finally, Mr. Biden, open your eyes and see your wife, your children and your grandchildren safe and snug in the White House, while millions of women and children are being trafficked and left shivering and hopeless in the cold refugee camps. You might think it is a clever move to isolate and cripple Russia by using Ukraine as your scapegoat. But history is witness to the fact that when the Britishers used the divide and rule policy to colonize India, it only led to the downfall of the British Empire. That's karma. It always comes back. For all the flack Mr. Donald Trump received during his tenure, it is noteworthy that there was no Afghan fiasco or Ukrainian fiasco during his presidency. This self-serving foreign policy will only make history remember you as a ruthless leader who failed to lead a superpower like America. So Mr. Putin, Mr. Biden and Mr. Zelensky, stop. Please stop and save the world and its economy through your proactive discussions. Do not compound the crisis by putting out threats of World War III. Humanity is already reeling from the COVID crisis. Lastly, I'd like to say that you three alone have the power to create this massive positive difference and restore peace back on earth. As they say, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, only then will the world witness peace. So be the doves of peace, not the vultures of war. Amen. And thank you for listening.